Captain Jake Morrison had faced countless alien species across the galaxy, but none had prepared him for the Velanthi. Their crystalline forms shimmered with an otherworldly beauty, each movement creating ripples of light across their translucent bodies. The diplomatic meeting on Kepler Station was supposed to be routine, another first contact protocol, another species to add to the growing galactic community. The Velanthi representative stood before him in the neutral zone of the meeting chamber. Her name was Lyra, and she possessed an ethereal grace that made even hardened space marines pause in reverence. Her voice carried musical undertones that seemed to resonate through the very air itself. "Human Captain Morrison," she began, her luminescent form pulsing gently, "we have heard of your species' reputation for physical contact as greeting rituals. We must inform you that such customs are forbidden among our people." Jake nodded respectfully, keeping his hands clasped behind his back. He had studied the preliminary cultural briefing, though it had been frustratingly sparse on details about Velanthi social customs. The xenobiologists were still trying to understand their unique physiology. "We respect your boundaries, Representative Lyra," he replied formally. "Earth's diplomatic corps has trained us to adapt to various cultural norms." The negotiation proceeded smoothly for the first hour. Trade agreements, territorial boundaries, and technological exchanges were discussed with professional courtesy. The Velanthi seemed particularly interested in human engineering capabilities, while offering their advanced energy crystallization techniques in return. As the session concluded, Jake felt optimistic about establishing positive relations. He stood and extended his hand in what he thought was a safe gesture, not for contact, but simply as a display of openness. However, in his enthusiasm, he stepped forward too quickly. The accident happened in milliseconds. Jake's outstretched hand brushed against Lyra's crystalline arm as she turned to gather her materials. The contact lasted less than a second, barely more than a whisper of touch. The effect was immediate and devastating. Lyra's entire form flared brilliant white, then shifted through a spectrum of colors Jake had never seen before. Her musical voice became a sharp, discordant note that made everyone in the room wince. The other Velanthi delegates immediately moved to surround her, their own forms pulsing in what appeared to be alarm. "Touch me once, and I won't forgive you, human," she said, her voice now carrying undertones of something Jake couldn't identify: rage, pain, or perhaps something else entirely. The words hit him like a physical blow, leaving him stunned and speechless. The room fell into absolute silence. Jake felt his heart racing as he realized he had committed some grave cultural transgression. "Representative Lyra, I sincerely apologize. It was completely accidental." "Accidental," she repeated, her form now a deep crimson that seemed to pulse with inner fire. "Do you understand what you have done, human?" Jake looked helplessly at his diplomatic team, but their faces reflected his own confusion and concern. The cultural briefing had mentioned avoiding physical contact, but hadn't explained the severity of the taboo or its consequences. "Please," Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper, "help me understand so I can make this right." Lyra's form began to shift again, cycling through colors more rapidly now. The other Velanthi delegates remained perfectly still, watching with what Jake could only interpret as anticipation. "Among our people," Lyra began, her voice taking on a formal, ritualistic tone, "physical contact creates a neural bond. When skin touches our crystalline matrix, memories, emotions, and experiences flow between both beings. It is the most intimate act possible for our species, reserved only for life partners and family." Jake felt the blood drain from his face. He had inadvertently forced an incredibly personal experience on a complete stranger. "I had no idea. Our briefing materials didn't explain. Furthermore," Lyra continued, her color shifting to a deep purple, "the bond is permanent. I will carry fragments of your consciousness within my matrix for the remainder of my existence. Your memories of loneliness during long space voyages, your fears about first contact situations, your determination to prove humanity worthy of galactic acceptance, all of this now resides within me. The revelation left Jake reeling. Not only had he committed a cultural violation, but he had also inadvertently shared his most private thoughts and feelings with a being he barely knew. The embarrassment was overwhelming. But there is something else, Lyra said, her voice softening slightly. Something unexpected. Jake waited, afraid to speak or move. In your memories, I found something our people have lost over millennia of crystalline evolution spontaneous joy. The simple pleasure you take in discovering new worlds, the way you find humor in mundane situations, the fierce loyalty you feel toward your crew. These emotions had become foreign to us. Her form began to shift to lighter colors, now pale blues and soft greens that seemed almost peaceful. Our species achieved biological immortality through crystallization, but we sacrificed emotional depth in the process. We exist in harmony, but without the passionate experiences that drive growth and discovery. Your accidental touch has reminded me what it means to truly feel. Jake found himself speechless for different reasons now. What had seemed like a diplomatic disaster was revealing itself to be something far more complex. So when I said I would not forgive you, Lyra continued, I meant that I cannot forget this gift you have unknowingly given me. The bond cannot be severed, and perhaps I would not want it to be. The other Valanthi delegates began to shift their own colors, creating a symphony of light throughout the chamber. Jake realized they were communicating in ways humans could barely comprehend. Representative Lyra, Jake said carefully, what does this mean for our diplomatic relations? It means, Captain Morrison, that humanity has taught us something profound about the value of emotional connection. We had planned to maintain formal distance from your species, as we do with all others. But your accident has shown us possibilities we had not considered. She moved closer, though careful to maintain physical distance. We propose a new kind of alliance. Not just trade and territory, but a cultural exchange. We can offer your people extended lifespans through controlled crystallization processes. In return, perhaps you can help us rediscover the emotional experiences we abandoned long ago. Jake looked around the room at his diplomatic team, seeing hope and excitement replacing the earlier confusion and fear. I think, he said slowly, that could be the beginning of something extraordinary. Lyra's form brightened to a warm golden hue. Indeed, Captain Morrison. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from the most unexpected accidents. As the meeting concluded with renewed purpose and optimism, Jake reflected on how a simple mistake had opened doors to possibilities neither species had imagined. The galaxy suddenly seemed full, infinite potential for understanding and growth.